Quisiste volar sin alas, quisiste tocar el cielo, quisiste mucha riqueza, quisiste jugar con fuego, y ahora...
In part 1, we defined fait accompli and began to deconstruct the 11-16 interview, identifying a clear pattern of manipulation, leading questions, and active witness contamination. Today, in part 2, we will demonstrate that this was not an isolated incident. We will see how this fait accompli approach, treating a desired conclusion as if it's already a fact, was present from the very beginning. We'll start by analyzing the first interview from November 13 and then return to the November 16 interview to expose critical new flaws we haven't discussed yet.
What's the most you ever lost on a coin toss? Sir? The most you ever lost on a coin toss?
First and foremost, if you could just take a deep breath in. I understand this is stressful. Okay? All I want to do is try and get an idea of what you heard, what you saw, and any timeline, any information that you can give us so that we can try and figure out what happened, okay? So what we're going to be doing is taking people's homes for a little while. We're going to try and, so because I don't know if you called anyone or made any phone calls or anything like that. What they do in an investigation like this is we try and collect as much information as we can.
In the first interview conducted on November 13, just hours after the discovery, the officer begins with excellent rapport building. He says, "First and foremost, if you can take a deep breath for me, I understand this is stressful. This is perfect, engage and explain protocol." But just seconds later, he completely destroys that trust. He states,
So what we're going to be doing is taking people's homes for a little while.
Notice this is not a request, it's a statement of fact, it's a fait accompli. He presents his coercive act as a non-negotiable procedural step. The witness's consent is not truly sought, it is presumed. This immediately frames the relationship as adversarial, not cooperative, and is a violation of the voluntary principle we discussed in part 1.
And you don't remember Kaylee's last name?
Gonzalez.
Gonzalez?
Yeah, Gonzalez.
Okay, can you spell that?
I don't know how to spell.
Oh, that's right, sorry.
In this example, from the first interview, is simple but profound, demonstrating ineffective technique. It shows a complete failure of active listening. The officer is asking for Kaylee's last name. The witness says Gonzalez. The officer mishears something and then proceeds with his own error, asking her to spell his misheard name. This is a microcosm of a larger problem. If an officer cannot correctly document a victim's name, the most basic piece of data, what other more subtle details are they mishearing, misinterpreting, or misdocumenting? This one error calls the integrity of all data gathered in this initial critical interview into question. Now let's return to the 11-16 interview we analyzed in part 1. We've already exposed the blatant contamination, but a closer look reveals more subtle but equally damaging flaws. The officer isn't just contaminating the witness, he's actively testing his own theories and overwhelming her ability to recall information.
I know everyone's already aware of the video from the web drive. The individual behind that goes up the time that Kaylee and Maddie do, and they kind of leaves right after they do. Do you know who that was?
I do not.
A core principle of a cognitive interview is free recall. You let the witness guide you, but here the officer does the complete and total opposite. He doesn't ask, what do you remember from that night? He leads her directly to a specific piece of evidence he has already reviewed and deemed important. This is hypothesis testing. He is testing his theory about the man at the truck. The gold standard alternative would be to let her bring up the grub truck. If she didn't, he would only ask after her free recall was exhausted and with an open question, like, tell me what happened after you left the club. By leading her there, he has signaled what he thinks is important, and she is now primed to give an answer he wants, not the one that is necessarily true for her. Finally, we see a classic bad question format, the laundry list question.
And Adderall, you talked about. Is there anyone in the house that you're aware of that takes prescription medication or treats for any therapy, anxiety, mental illness, any of that?
This is a prime example of cognitive overload. This question is a disaster. It is one, multi-part, in that it asks about medication, therapy, anxiety, and mental illness all at once. It is two, vague. What does anti-any therapy even mean? And three, it is close-ended. It demands a simple yes or no to a profoundly complex question. A witness may answer no because one part of the list is untrue, even if another part is true. Fisher and Geiselman, the fathers of cognitive interviewing, warn against this. It overloads the witness and results in ambiguous and useless data. The officer should have asked one open-ended question at a time. For instance, tell me about any medications in the house, and then shut the f*** up. Now, in conclusion, I have a question. How would you characterize or describe these interviews? How about a compounded failure? A compounded failure characterized ultimately by the pattern inherent in a fait accompli. So what have we seen? We've seen that the flaws from part 1 were not an accident. The pattern was set in the very first interview on November 13, with coercive tactics and a failure to listen. It was then solidified and crystallized in the 11-16 interview, where hypothesis testing replaced information gathering and laundry list questions created more confusion than clarity. The integrity of this investigation was compromised from the very beginning, not by a single bad question, because this would be impossible, but by a consistent, systemic failure to follow the most basic, evidence-based protocols. The outcome, as we can hear and listen and see, was treated as a fait accompli, and the witnesses' memories were simply tools to get there. Y'all, please let me know what you think, what other failures in protocol you pick up on, and any other relevant or impactful segments of other police interviews that you think we should consider to continue expanding on this topic. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.